So how do you go about recording professional vocals from home if you don't have the best environment and maybe you're not even a great singer? I get comments all the time on my videos about how horrible of a singer I am. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can still record amazing vocals from home even if you're not a great singer, even if you don't have a great environment. Hi, I'm Reagan Ram with Orpheus Audio Academy, and sadly I've been a bit sick recently, so if I sound a little weird, it's because I'm still congested. So this thing, you might be wondering what this is for. Well, this has something to do with recording vocals. So I'm going to share with you some best practices for recording from home, even if you're not in a great environment, so you can record professional quality vocals, especially if you have budget gear. And then I'm actually going to show you how to record vocals inside of a digital audio workstation. Here I'm using Logic, and so we'll actually record vocals, and then I'll show you a really ninja hack you can use to create amazing pro quality vocals even if you're not a great singer. So be sure to watch all the way to the end. By the way, this video is part 6 in my Saddest Studio Ever series, where I'm walking through how to record and produce and release a pro quality song from home from scratch, start to finish. So if you want to start at the beginning and you want to make sure you don't miss out on any of the other videos in this series, just go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/start and you'll be able to sign up and get all these videos in the series with all the resources and everything that I have with this series. Is basically like a free course on how to get started producing and releasing music from home, so you don't want to miss that. All right, so let's get into best practices for recording vocals from home.
Tip number 1 is to acoustically treat your room. So this means you put up acoustic panels or foam on the walls in your room to absorb sound, so that you deaden the room as much as possible, so you don't get a lot of reverberation or echoes or reflections in your microphone in your recording, so that they sound as clean and pristine as possible, because that is a quality that's really going to make your recording sound amateur, is just having a lot of reverb or echo in the microphone. That is just screams amateur. So by having a very clean recording, it's immediately going to sound way more professional. Tip number 2 is to turn off anything noisy in your room. Now this might seem obvious, but if you haven't taken the time to just sit, maybe with your eyes closed, and just listened to what you can hear in your room, you might find that there's more noise than you realize, right? Just now, as I was recording this video, I heard a car drive down the road. I don't know if you heard that, probably not. But depending on where you live, right, you could have noise coming from outside your room that are kind of loud, and you can't really turn those off. But in your room, there might be noises. Maybe there's a fan overhead. I have to turn that off when I record these videos. My room actually has a lot of stuff working against it. All right, tip number 3 is to have the microphone back pointed to any noise sources you have in your room. Now, if I had something that was especially noisy in this room, I would want to point the back of the microphone towards that, because the microphone I have and the microphone that you likely have has a cardioid polar pattern. That means out from the mic, it forms basically kind of a heart shape in front of the microphone, meaning the back of the microphone isn't picking up any audio. It doesn't mean sounds from the back can't come into the front and be still picked up, but if you put the back of the microphone to that noisy sound source, it's going to reject a lot more of those sounds. Now, tip number 4 is to keep your microphone off your desk, because, well, that's kind of harder than I thought it was going to be. If you hit your desk kind of hard and your microphone is on your desk, it's going to make a lot of noise. Now, I don't know if you're hearing this. I mean, you're probably hearing me hitting the desk itself, but you're not getting the microphone being hit sound, which is very, very bad. Very not a good sound. Very good language speaking here. I have this boom arm, right? You can get a mic stand, and then you have the shock mount here. The shock mount is designed to help absorb some of those sounds, right? Obviously, if you're hitting the mic, that's not going to be good. So don't hit the mic when you're recording either. That's not a good thing to do. So yeah, keep the mic off your desk as much as possible. You don't want to be recording on your desk, because any touch of that desk is going to send vibrations through the mic, which is what sound is. Really, it's just vibrations in the air. And so that's going to be picked up by the microphone, and it's going to make for a bad amateur sounding recording. Tip number 5 is to sing at the correct distance and into the right side of the microphone. So a lot of people, I see this, they don't actually sing into the correct side of the microphone that's designed to pick up sound. A lot of times I'll see people like singing into the top of the microphone, or maybe the side or the back, and you're not going to be picking up audio the way the microphone was designed to pick up audio. So look at the manual for your microphone, see where the front of the microphone is, where the polar pattern is, and sing into that side of the microphone. And you also want to sing at the correct distance, right? You don't, depending on the microphone you have, there's different distances to the microphone that are ideal for singing. So if you have a dynamic microphone, you probably want to get pretty darn close to that microphone because that's the way it's designed to pick up sound. Now, I used to run live sound for a pretty big church, and we would have speakers go up on stage, and they'd have these dynamic microphones, which are, ideal for live music because they're durable, but they wouldn't know how to hold them. They'd kind of be talking and moving their hands like they're talking with the microphone, and no one would be able to hear them because they weren't putting the microphone right in front of their mouth. And so that's what we have to do with a dynamic microphone. But with a condenser microphone, what you probably have, which is ideal for a studio environment because they're more sensitive, they can pick up more detail. You actually want to give yourself some distance, even, depending on how loud you're singing, somewhere in the like 5 to 12 inches range, right? 12 would probably be it's a little extreme, maybe if you're really belting something out, really like screaming out a vocal. But otherwise, you want to be like a good 5 inches. The way my mentor taught me is you kind of want to do the hang loose, whatever this sign is called. I'm not a surfer, whatever this is. Totally tubular. And you kind of measure that from your nose to about the microphone, and that's about a good distance. So like right here, then if I was singing, would be where I want to sing into the microphone. But it's also a good idea to not actually sing directly into the microphone. Even with this pop filter, you can get plosives and sibilants, which is not what you want. It's not a good sound. So you can actually just raise it up so that the microphone is at nose level or eye level, and so that your mouth is actually going below the microphone. And this isn't going to hurt the quality because condenser microphones are very sensitive. They can pick up a lot of detail. I can go and scratch on the wall in the back of the room, and you'll probably still be able to hear it. All right, tip 6 is to not move around a lot when you are recording, because if I'm moving around a lot, this chair is also squeaky. So if you have a squeaky chair, watch out for that. But if you are moving around a lot, you're gonna get inconsistent audio. It's not gonna sound great. As you probably just heard, this video is probably really annoying you right now. I hope you're still watching. Tip number 7 is to set the gain levels correctly so that you are recording at the proper input level of your microphone. So you don't want to be recording too hot or too loudly because then you can get clipping, which is also a telltale amateur recording signal. But you also don't want to record your vocals too quietly, and it'll be a lower quality audio. So a good average is about minus 18 dB. And you don't want to go any quieter than minus 24 dB. So that means you can go a little bit above 18, right, for those louder parts, and a little bit below if you're for quieter parts, but that's kind of a good average that you're going to be safe. Tip number 8 is to use a pop filter. That's what this thing is right here. I have a metal pop filter here. You might be used to seeing those cloth ones that are all twisty. I don't really like those. I see a lot of microphones kind of moving away from those. Some have magnetic pop filters, which is pretty cool. But you just want to have some kind of pop filter, because that's going to cut down on those annoying P and B sounds. Those are plosives that are created when you have that burst of air coming out of the mouth. So the pop filter will break that up and help reduce those sounds, which are a really big headache to try and fix after the fact.
All right, so now I'm going to actually go in and record my vocals now, and I'm going to record myself singing the lyrics that we came up with in part 5, the previous video in this series. I'll have that linked below. Here is the track, and I had some scratch vocals I recorded in here just so I knew what the melody would be. So we're going to go ahead and create a new audio track. So let's go audio, create, and that's all you need to get started recording, right? Make sure our input is correct. I'm recording from input 1 on my interface, mono, so that's correct. And so then all I need to do to get started recording is hit R and then start recording. But we could run into some latency problems. So to resolve that, we can put Logic here into low latency mode. If you don't see this, you can just hit this arrow and you can do custom, or rather customize control bar in display, and you can turn on low latency monitoring mode here, so that shows up. Another thing we might want to do to make sure we don't have latency. So what basically latency is, you're talking, but your voice is delayed. It comes later, and that's really going to throw you off when you're singing. So we can reduce the buffer size if we want to. So that can help with the latency. The problem is you can run into system overload trouble sometimes if you have too much going on, too many plugins and stuff, which we haven't mixed this, so we don't really have a whole lot of, don't have too many plugins. Another thing we could do is we could freeze these tracks while we're recording, since we're not working on the tracks. So we've got everything we need. I can just hit the record here to start recording. I can hit I for input monitoring so I can hear myself on my headphones while I'm recording. But I'm going to share just a couple optional things you might want to do. Now these are not free, but these are some really cool plugins you can use while recording with your vocals. So we can use some really great, like live recording plugin chain you can use is by Waves. So one is Waves Tune Real Time. So we can tune our vocals in real time, and this song is in the key of C major. So we can do C major. We can turn our speed down a bit or increase our speed a bit here. And so now this will pitch correct us in real time. Another great tool is Waves Vocal Writer Live. So what Vocal Writer Live is going to basically do for you is make it so that it's going to be much easier to mix your vocals later, because you're going to have to use a lot less compression. So what we want to do here is we want to turn this all the way to vocal, turn music all the way off because we're not listening to music once it loads. And we're going to do fast setting here so it catches the vocal a lot faster. And then we're going to turn the range up quite a bit here, because we want to keep this pretty loud, pretty up front. I mean, this will give us a much more consistent vocal performance. So if I turn on the input monitor here, you can hear it's really starting to keep my voice up. You can see how it's bringing it to much more stable. And we might want to bring this slider up just a bit too, so it's going to be even more picking it up. So you can still hear there's a tad bit of latency, but we're pretty on. So if I go to 256 buffer size. Now one last thing we can do is put on a little bit of reverb, because it sounds weird to record dry. So we're going to play. We're going to bring the wet dry down quite a bit. Maybe about right there. Turn up some pre-delay. And increase the diffusion. We're going to cut the lows. Our track armed. Click the R there, it's blinking. Let's just hit this red recording button, and we're going to record.
Plastic smile, a rule-bound home of, but I was chained, wrapped in silence, masked in shame.
All right, so since I'm not a great singer, I'm going to try converting these vocals into an AI singer and importing them into this track and see how they sound. So this is a really cool tool called AUDIMEE, who is also the sponsor of this video. And this lets you create really realistic sounding vocals from your vocal performances. And there's also a free option here. So if we go to pricing, you can see free. You get 15 minutes of conversions and 9 royalty-free voices. All right, so now we're gonna test this out with our vocal that I just recorded, and I sound awful, partly because I'm sick, partly because I'm not a great singer. So let's choose a voice. So you can see all the different voices here. I wrote the song from the perspective of like a princess. So I probably want a female singer. So we can do female. You can also sort by the range. You can also convert your voice to an instrument, but that will have to be a separate video. So let's try Ava. So we can throw this in here. First, we want to set the key. So this is C major. So I might want to add a little vibrato. I already have some pitch correction on it, so maybe I'll just keep that really slight. There's also a manual pitch corrector here, which is pretty cool. We could try Lily. Maybe we do the conversion strength to 30.
Plastic smile, a rule-bound home, but in my bones I felt alone. She called it love, but I was...
Now I noticed when you do pitch the semitones up, it literally is changing the performance. So that's where maybe it'd be nice to move up a whole octave so you don't have to adjust this.
Plastic smile, a rule-bound home, but in my bones I felt alone. She called it love, but I was chained, wrapped in silence, masked in shame. She spoke in spells I learned too late, but I heard songs in static fields, strange lullabies the night began. Now it all lit.
All right, she did not handle that too well because I went really high there, and so that must have been too high.
Now it all ignites, every thread and every spark, a brand new start, map written on my heart, 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 heart.
That sounds pretty good. So I think I just went outside the range of the singer with that. So let's go back to AUDIMEE. What if we just did 0?
Plastic smile, a rule-bound home, but in my bones I felt alone.
Honestly, just as the default sounded pretty good.
Wrapped in silence, masked in shame. She spoke in spells I learned too late, but I heard songs in static fields, fields, strange
right, so let's export this track. All right, let's go back into, whoops, a daisy. Let's go back into AUDIMEE. And so let's import a different file now, that new one. I think we're gonna keep everything the same. I'm gonna convert.
Now it all ignites, every thread and every spark, a brand new start, map written on my heart, 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 heart.
That might be too deep. What's better singer?
Now it all ignites, every thread and every spark, a brand new start, map written on my heart, 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 heart. Now it all ignites, every thread and every spark, a brand new start, map written on my heart, 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 heart.
All right, let's see about finding some more layers. So maybe we switch up the voice for something a little bit more powerful. Maybe that goes a little deeper. What if we do like low?
As the sun shines on all of my glory, my flaws don't look so bad. I like that with the chemistry, yeah. And when you buy it back, who could remedy that? I'm into.
All right, let's try Eleanor. And we'll keep it at 0. We'll go up to 30. Just for layering in those choruses. So another really cool thing we can do here is we can make harmonies. So we click on the harmony tab here and we can input up to 1 minute and 15 seconds of audio. So let's try doing that. The key is C major. And now we can add in other voices singing harmonies. And this is really cool. So we can have someone else sing the melody as well. And we can change the octave if we want to. So we can go up a third if we want to.
Now it all ignites, every thread and every spark, a brand new start, map written on my heart. Now it all comes clear, every glyph and every code, lost princess stole of every gem and all her gold, 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 gold.
Wow, that sounds really good. Did you hear that? So one thing we can do is we can go into the editor here and we can actually adjust the notes here if we want to create the exact melody. So that's pretty cool. So right now we're seeing the actual notes and we can move these around. We could do a root drone.
Now it all ignites, every thread and every spark, a brand new start, map written on my heart.
So that's actually pretty good. Just curious to see what adding in a male vocalist would sound like as well, the layer.
Now it all ignites, every thread and every spark.
A brand new start, map written on my heart. Now it all comes clear, every glyph and every code. Lost princess stole of every gem and all her gold.
Gold, gold.
If we did down a third.
Now it all ignites, every thread and every
Spark, a brand new start,
map written on my heart. Now it all comes clear, every glyph and every code, lost princess stole of every gem and all her gold, 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 gold.
So we could do down a third or we could do the melody down an octave.
Now it all ignites, every thread and every spark,
a brand new
start, map written on my heart. Now it all comes clear, every glyph and every code.
All right, so I think that's pretty good. So then we can do convert, and we can even save this as a preset if we wanted to for future projects. So then here we can download the entire stack, or we can download them individually. So I'm going to download these individually. All right, so now we've got our harmonies in here.
All ignites, every thread and every spark, a brand new start, map written on my heart. Now it all comes clear, every glyph and every code, lost princess stole of every gem and all her gold.
Now another real cool thing we can do with AUDIMEE is we can go to mixed voices, and we can actually make like a Frankenstein hybrid voice between two different voices. So we liked Ava and Lily, but maybe we want a more powerful voice to combine.
That's the vibe. Yes, I come in from time to time, especially when I.
Tenemos que no sé dónde está.
Don't you notice how?
Dime qué es lo que pasa. Ve, vente pa' mi casa. Yo te espero sin nada. Dime qué es lo que pasa. Yo quiero desacatarme contigo.
Do you ever wonder about me?
could also do Lily, and then we can choose, I guess, a blend between these. So we can do 50-50. We can even add another voice, but let's just create this voice and see how it sounds. All right, we can select use voice. Again, upload our audio. I've been watching you for some time. All right, I'm using my voice again, so we're going to shift that up 12. Let's do 20. Pitch it a bit, add a bit of vibrato, C major. All right, and convert.
Plastic smile, a rule bound home, but in my bones.
All right, so I really like this mixed voice. It's a little bit more powerful, so I added it in here. And for example, it sounds really good during the chorus. It sounds good during, yeah, it sounds much better than the bridge. It sounds better than the pre-choruses too, so we'll hear it here during the pre-chorus.
Years, strange lullabies, and I reveal. Now it all ignites every thread and every spark of brand.
And during the bridge.
And now we're pretending, no more lies. The kingdom's pause behind my eyes. The kingdom says, I've come home, I've come back home, I've come back home.
That is how you can use the mixed voice feature. Oh, there we go. So that's our mess of vocals. Now in the next part, we're going to break down how to go about editing these, adjusting these, and getting these ready to actually be mixed in a future lesson. By the way, this entire series of videos is brought to you by my course, Radio Ready Record, which is my complete end-to-end system to go from setting up your home studio using budget equipment to writing your first song, producing your first song, mixing, mastering, and everything you need to know to actually release pro quality music from home using budget equipment and the plugins you already have. So if you want to learn more about this course, just go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/RRR. All right, now if you're ready to check out the next part in this series where I actually edit all these vocals, clean them up, denoise them, arrange them, all that stuff so that you have nice professional sounding vocals that are ready to mix, then click the box on the screen right now. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you in a future video.